is NDTV and you are watching NDTV Prime.
So much happening in the automotive space these days, and the context for that goes far beyond just the OEMs. We are, of course, talking about the ancillary industries, and this is also very, very specific to the big changes that are coming. There are not just new regulations and policies, but even from a product perspective, we're talking about alternate fueled vehicles, perhaps even getting into the autonomous segment as well very quickly. What are the implications or the growth areas that come from that? Well, that and more is what I hope to discuss with Mr. Jurgen Ziegler, who is the regional CEO for Schaeffler and is in India right now, and I'm privileged to have him join me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
No, thanks for the time, and I'm going to jump straight into it then. You heard the context of what I said at the start. It is an interesting yet challenging and sometimes almost a confusing time that we find ourselves in, because some of that future seems very unknown today. It does throw up a lot of opportunities though for companies like yours.
It does. Not only from the perspective that of course we are today a major supplier to the automotive industry, mainly of course to the internal combustion engines, transmission, axle, but as well we are providing substantial part of our business model is on the industrial section.
Yes.
Worldwide for Schaeffler, the automotive share is around 75% of our business, 25% is industrial. But it gives us the opportunity to look from various angles to this kind of movements, and I think we are in some way, of course, getting equipped like others, prepared would be better to say, like others for the challenges to come.
When you say that 75% of the business is automotive, in India you then have a lot of room to grow, because I know in India it's about 50-50 for you, isn't it?
Yeah. In India we are more or less 50-50, and of course India is a very interesting market for us. I mean, India selling 4 million vehicles a year, which is the 4th or 5th biggest market in the world. So I think you're right, there are opportunities even in today's business model, not even only talking about the future ones.
In the Indian context, one change, of course, has been the volumes that have grown. Maybe you can argue that some of those haven't grown at the rate that we would have expected a few years ago, but yet there are already these projections about third largest market in a few years' time. So that's one part of the story, of course, which is important. But the other thing we've seen is that, especially in the kind of segments that you operate in, or the kind of the work that you need to do. Earlier, it used to be more about sort of print and reproduce. Now there is a lot more that's happening from a development perspective.
Right.
A lot of that R&D is happening in India. Does that also become especially interesting, because many other markets are sort of saturated on that front?
Very valid point. It's important for us, and like we have today already in India, a big group of engineers on R&D, on basic R&D and application engineers. That is a growing part of our business. As we know, we have to be close to our customers from the R&D point of view, to the customers, to the decision makers, to the producers, to understand what's their shift into the future. So for us, being in R&D is an essential part of our business. We couldn't do without. And as you rightly mentioned, I mean, in some of our businesses, we are more moving to a commodity business. R&D doesn't play that big role, but there's quite a substantial amount of our business based on engineering skills. And that has always been a part of our model and will always be.
Given that, and given the fact that, and I know you've also announced that there will be substantial investments in the business, about 250 to 300 crore per year for the next couple of years. Where is the bulk of that money going to go for you?
Yeah, so we are going to expand into plant capacities on our today's business, and of course getting prepared for our future business. We are going to invest into our distribution network, And we are going to invest into all the logistic areas, which will provide us substantial benefits on the cost side.
Now, on the logistics side, you've also had huge investments recently announced in Germany as well.
Right.
Let's say, what's the intent behind that? When you talk about putting some significant amount of money there, where do you aim to get to with those investments?
Yeah. Well, if you look into the kind of distribution, the kind of logistics we do today in India, it's taking care about that we are reaching each and every part of the region, but not in the most efficient way. So we will have to build hubs, warehouses, distribution centers to save on freight cost, to save on handling cost, to do things like you just mentioned, where you do some completion of spare parts into full service packages, and then distribute from a more central hub into the country. That will be part of our future logistic.
I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there is such a substantial business in the industrial space for you. Yeah. I'm trying not to keep my auto hat firmly on, but having said that, when you talk about today's business and the fact that you're even saying it like that, today's business and future business, you do anticipate a huge shift in the future, isn't it?
Well, everybody talks at this point of time all over the world about how is the future of the internal combustion engine, what will be the electric vehicle, what role hybridization will play. So if I say future business, I'm thinking rightly already about steps towards another way of engines and transmissions. And that is, of course, something which we are getting prepared as well.
So speaking of that, sort of change that's coming, let's start with electric. Now, yes, the Indian government has also thrown in a context to it by putting a target date, 2030. Many people think it's unrealistic, but just the fact that you now have a goal to work towards, and it's not just India, you're seeing many governments coming up with those kind of targets. Does that help sort of contextualize it and make it more real for you? Because not just in terms of targeting business, but also in terms of where to put your investments.
I think it definitely helps to have a target for what will be the share of, let me say, an electric vehicle in future. On the other hand, we need to be probably a bit more careful what kind of steps in between are necessary to reach there. And I mean, at the end, it's not that you have a certain share of electric vehicles. The benefit should be the pollution part of it and reduction of CO2, etc. So I would say, yes, it helps. It drives the companies thinking into a future technology. On the other hand, it should provide as well a platform of giving the car and the supply industry opportunities, other technical solutions in between, which may serve the purpose in a similar way, and would make this transition from let's call it 100% internal combustion into electric vehicle drive more smooth.